Isn't it kind of wild how obsessed we are with terrifying things we just completely made up? We invent these dark, spooky nightmares and then totally fall in love with them. Makes you wonder what that actually says about us.
Think about it. Way back before anyone had a clue about how germs worked or what microscopic bugs were doing, sudden tragic sickness was just terrifying. People would get sick and nobody knew why. So they blamed the dark. They honestly believed the dead were waking up in the shadows, coming back to steal warm, life-giving blood just to stay alive.
But here's the wild part. Those original Eastern European monsters, the Yopir, were definitely not the handsome, charming lords in velvet capes we picture today. They were filthy. Imagine a scary, dirty zombie clawing its way out of the freshest grave in town. Just pure nightmare fuel.
People were just so completely panicked. Entire villages were terrified, coming up with the wildest tricks to keep the dead in the ground. We're talking hauling heavy rocks and placing them right on top of the graves to pin them down, hanging incredibly strong-smelling garlic around doors, hoping the stench would keep them away. They'd even balance sharp farming sickles right over buried bodies, just in case they tried to sit up.
The tragedy is, they were just completely misunderstanding nature. When they dug up graves to check on things, they'd see bodies shifting slightly, or notice they had grown new nails. Today, we know those are entirely natural, creepy little changes that happen when bodies break down, but back then, totally mistaken for dark magic. To a frightened villager, it was absolute proof of a midnight feeding.
It got so chaotic that military men and doctors actually went out to investigate and write down reports of this massive panic. It was a total frenzy. Villagers were frantically digging up graves all over the place, desperate to stop the sickness. The whole chaotic scene was like a dark medieval game of whack-a-mole, with frightened people just trying to hit whatever they thought was popping out of the dirt next.
But then something funny happened. Those grim clinical reports eventually traveled to big, fancy cities. The city folks didn't believe in the monsters, but they absolutely loved the thrill of the spooky stories. It totally inspired writers to give the creature a major makeover, taking it from a dirty, mindless zombie and upgrading it into a fancy, party-going aristocrat. You can actually track the myth mutating over time. It starts with real, genuine village panics centuries ago. Then it shifts into literature when writers introduce this aristocratic, velvet-wearing monster. And eventually, that trails all the way to creating the ultimate classic we all recognize today. The creator of that classic really did his homework too. He dug into history and found a completely human, but absolutely terrifying, harsh prince named Vlad the Impaler. Vlad wasn't magical at all, just incredibly scary. But the writer borrowed that chilling real-world reputation to give his fictional monster a brilliant, dark historical edge. He also invented all these wild magical rules that we just accept now as normal. He decided the villain could turn into a bat or a wolf and command the creatures of the night. But he also gave him these really odd weaknesses. The guy had to haul around a box of his home dirt just to sleep in. And he had this strange inability to easily cross a running stream of water. And of course, absolutely hating holy items. Then the monster steps onto the stage, shifting into the theater era. When actors started playing the role in front of live audiences, they needed to look incredibly cool and mysterious. And that is exactly where the invention of that iconic, giant batwing cape comes from. The actors totally own this look, bringing it to life in a way nobody expected. And here's a mischievous little theater secret for you. That famous high collar wasn't high fashion at all. It was a totally practical trick. Actors needed a way to hide their faces from the audience when they were magically vanishing down through stage trapdoors in the dark. Once movies came along, filmmakers just started making up their own visual rules to look good on camera. For instance, they completely invented the idea that sunlight burns these monsters to a crisp. In the original book, the character was totally fine taking a sunny afternoon stroll. The whole burning in the sun thing was just dramatic flair made up later for the silver screen. It's the exact same deal with the teeth. Those super long, incredibly sharp, iconic fangs literally just added because they looked absolutely terrifying in those early, grainy black and white movie shots. They needed a visual symbol that popped on screen. And boom, the giant fangs were born. And then you look at today, and you just have to wonder at how soft the creature has become. We've taken this terrifying graveyard monster and evolved it into these sad, moody heroes who literally sparkle in the sunshine. Now they fight bad guys and just want to hang out and be good friends with people. It's wild how much they've changed.
But, it makes sense when you think about it, because the whole myth is like a giant mirror, reflecting whatever humanity holds up to it. It catches our own deepest, unspoken thoughts and bounces them right back at us. When you look closely, we really just use this monster to process our own stuff. We look at it and we imagine beating old age, escaping this fragile, normal human body entirely. It reflects our deepest fears of getting sick, but also that secret, lingering wish to just stay young and perfect forever.
Though there is always a tragic catch to the fantasy, right? The stories almost always remind us that living forever really just means watching everyone you love slowly fade away. You get to be immortal, sure, but you're trapped all alone in the shadows, while the world moves on without you. Still, part of the massive appeal today is just the pure, rebellious fantasy of it all. They get to completely ignore every single rule society has. They stay up all night. They cause chaos. It's just really fun to pretend to be completely wild and untouchable for a little while. It's an incredible transformation, right? We took a terrified village's absolute, panicked fear of the unknown, disease, the dark, death, and slowly polished it up over the centuries into cool cinematic art. We literally turned a real-life nightmare into a massive movie star. Now, it's just completely domesticated. You see it absolutely everywhere. This ancient terror is casually hanging out on our breakfast cereal boxes, smiling at us in colorful cartoons, popping up in our board games. It's just everyday stuff now. And every Halloween, you see little kids dressing up in black capes with big plastic teeth, running around safely in the dark. It is like taking a fun plastic-fanged victory lap over humanity's oldest, darkest fears. We put on the costume, and suddenly the night isn't so scary anymore. We mastered the dark simply by playing along with it. We turned our oldest nightmare into a fun, shared adventure. Makes you wonder what terrifying thing humanity is going to dress up as next. Anyway, if you had fun wandering through the dark with me today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. See you next time.